Thank you all for taking part of your day to attend the SmartCommand Systems Installation class. For logistical purposes, we are going to go through and play a short pre-recorded video. I'm going to cover some of the system parameters and topologies with the PowerPoint presentation, just a couple of slides. And then we're actually going to get into live programming of a system that I have set up here. So kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. I am Jerry Lass, Technical Trainer for Wrath by Avire.
And I am Zach Devine, Tech Support Manager for Wrath by Avire. And today we are going to be going over the installation of a SmartCommand system, go over a few tips and tricks, and also anything else that might lead to a successful installation. These are the items you can expect to receive with your SmartCommand order. First, here you have your call commander. This particular unit is a wall mount. This is actually a recessed model, so it sits somewhat flush in the wall. We also have a surface mount unit and also a desk mount unit that comes with desk mount brackets as well. Within the cabinet is where you can expect to find your manual. Please review that because a lot of your questions may get answered in there. Also with the boss unit, we have our power cord. We have our mounting ears, and these can either be surface mounted to the wall or you can rotate them and they will mount to a standard 19-inch rack. And then we have our programming cord, which this plugs into the front of your boss unit and is how you will perform your configuration with a laptop. Also, we have our call boxes, which we'll go over the wiring for those. We offer those in wall mount, surface mount, and exterior rated versions, if you will. And then with your boss unit, this is a 3400 unit. That is your model number. You also may see a 3400-128 for the larger systems. And then your call commander is 3200 series. And then your call boxes are typically 3300 series.
Once you've decided your location for your main boss head end, which is typically in a wiring closet or in a fire command center, select your backboard in such a fashion that you have enough space to mount not only the boss, but if you require a backup power source, that you have available wall space for that as well, or rack space. Make sure that you keep track of your power cord. This is a power cord with a retention clip on it that's required for the installation of the system. And it also comes with a programming interface cable. Make sure that you keep track of your programming interface cable. Later on in this course, we're going to be covering the programming of your boss system. Once mounted, we can go through and take the screws out of the front panel and slide that off to expose our wiring connections. We can see where there are 3 loop connectors on this particular system. This is a 32 zone boss head end. And we also have a connection for a telephone line. The connections are going to go call commander, and then 2 loops for our call boxes. When we're doing our wiring for our individual devices, we need to make sure that we have our proper pass-throughs selected. On the removable front cover, we can see where there are knockouts that are on there. If you desire to have the wiring coming from the front, you can do that. The other option is to use the side access portal. This is a swivel out. You can leave it swiveled enough to get your wires through or snap it off. But that is at your discretion based upon the mounting of the system. We use 18 gauge 2-pair cabling in order to complete our connections. Now, we constantly have people calling and saying, can I use Cat5? Can I use old telephone wire? I had a pre-existing system that we're replacing. If you opt for doing something like that, you are bearing the responsibility of it because you're not following the manufacturer's recommendation. So keep in mind, 18.4. Now, we take our 18-4 wire, we're going to strip the sheath back about 1.5 inches to expose our internal conductors. After which, we are going to fan them out and then strip the insulation off of each conductor back by about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. Once we do that, we have the connectors that we remove from the front that have screw terminals on them and openings. We're going to take and insert the individual wires into the openings, tighten the wires into their proper spot by turning the screws, which is going to cause a panel to pinch that wire to keep it in place. Make sure that you follow the color code to ensure that your wiring is done properly. Simple version for me is I take my clips, which has a rounded side and a flat side. And I always take my clips and say, okay, with the rounded side down, which makes it easier to insert the wires, I'm going from left to right, yellow, blue, red, black. If I repeat that every time, then when I get done, my wiring is going to be done properly, as can be seen here. Round side down, yellow, blue, red, black. This is a proper wiring connection. The most common call commanders that are ordered do come in a cabinet. So I wanted to take a moment to demonstrate how we access the call commander itself in order to get the wiring in. This is also the same procedure that you're going to use to separate the outer cover from the back box for mounting. There are 4 hex-headed screws, 2 on either side of the call commander cabinet. Please use the provided Allen wrench or a suitably sized replacement in order to access the Allen head screws. Simply take the 4 off, and then we're going to expose the interior of the box. Once the cover has been removed and we have the interior of the box exposed, there are 2 other Allen head screws that need to be loosened. Same size as the other one, so keep your Allen wrench handy, and we're going to loosen those. Once that's complete, then we can go through and access the back side of the call commander, which is where our wiring connections are completed. While you're going through and doing this handset does have a plug on it. I recommend separating the handset from the unit because it's a 6-foot cord. So if you're mounting it 5 feet off the floor, you're bouncing a handset. Once the screws have been removed, now we see the back side of the call commander. Now that we have our wiring connectors exposed, we need our pathway set up. So remember, this thing is either recessed into the wall or surface mounted, depending upon the style that was ordered for the installation. On the bottom of the system, there are conduit knockouts that are already in place. Those are the pass-throughs for the wiring for the call commander. You're going to take the wiring, run it up through that location, and then we're going to terminate them, remember, with the clip down, yellow, blue, red, black, and it is going to plug into the back of our call commander. Those are parallel connectors, and we are only going to use one of the 2 connectors. The other one is for future use. Let's wire our call boxes. Remember, the wire pathway is going to be dictated by the type of call box that was ordered as part of the installation. Surface mount call boxes have knockouts that are on the bottom of the back boxes. The IP rated box is going to depend upon the pathway. Some people like mounting them directly over a single gang outlet box and pass the wire through in that fashion, in which case you would put the hole in the backside. But the situation and environment are going to dictate the way that the wire gets into the call boxes. Each call box comes with 4 star-headed screws or security screws to keep them attached to their back box. We are going to remove those screws using the provided star-headed bit and then expose our wiring connections. Wiring is done in this fashion. It's daisy chain wiring. That means that we come in to a call box and then go out of that call box into the next call box in order to complete our daisy chain. Remembering that we have our wiring done so that with the rounded part down, that's the screws up from left to right, yellow, blue, red, black. So we're coming in from the boss head end on the connector that's closest to our push button. And then we are going to go out of the connector that's on the top side of the call box and go to our next call box, again, coming in on the lower connector or the one that is closest to the push button. And we remove the protected back box on here so that you could see what the actual boss board looks like. Has the 8 ohm speaker that is up on the top, push button that is on the bottom. Those are the external connections to the board. It draws power and communication through that 4-pair connection that is daisy chained from call box to call box, ultimately terminating at the boss head end. Now that we have our wire runs done to our call commander and our call boxes all interconnected, we're going to make our final connection to the boss controller. Coming in through our side access port, we are going to plug our call commander wiring into the port that is closest to the display on the front of the unit. So call commander into the port that's closest to the display. On our call boxes are going to connect to the next available ports in line. Now, keeping in mind that this is a 32-zone system, if we had our 128-zone system, then we would have another set of connectors for call boxes. Each connector can have up to 32 call boxes attached to it. Then, of course, on the very end, we have our telephone line connection. So, once that is complete and all of our wiring has been done, then we're going to go through and power our system on. On the back side, near the power cable plug-in, is an on-off switch. Turn that on, the system fires up, and then the boss is going to do an automatic recognition and discovery process where it's going to tell you how many of which type of device it sees. So it'll come back and say, I see one call commander, I see however many call boxes that you installed on the entire system, and I see one external line attached. When you first fire the system up, it's going to be in an alarm condition because the programming doesn't match what is currently on the boss controller. When you initially fire it up and it's done doing its recognition, reach over here and press that alarm button in order to silence that alarm for a period of 24 hours. The other connection that we need to concern ourselves with on the boss system is our supervision connection. Most of the time, these connections are going to be a dry contact that is going to provide a change of state to a relay that's connected to the fire alarm control panel. We access the relay board by removing the 2 screws that are on the back side of the boss head end. Once that's done, we can see where our pass-throughs for our wires are right there. We're going to set that aside. And we have our connectors that are located inside the cabinet. Each of these connectors has, again, a 2 or 3 pin connection that's on it. A 2 or 3 pin, come off of there. There we go. They're very easy to remove. A 2 or 3 pin connector that's going to be utilized depending upon which of the connectors that we're plugging them into. just like that. So to give you a better idea of what we're looking at, here are our relay outputs, which are our 3-pin connectors, and our relay inputs that are our 2-pin connectors. The connector on the outside, we're going to take and feed power into. So sampling of our power, that can be AC or it can be the output of our DC power supply. That is at your discretion, whichever way you think is going to be best to monitor it. Most folks go through and monitor the AC power that is being applied through the power cord coming into the BOSS unit. Second input is for our DC power. Again, a lot of folks go through and use that to monitor the battery contacts on their backup power source. But you can monitor whatever your heart desires with that. Both of those relay inputs go from 5 to 230 volts, and that is AC or DC. Now, those inputs, based upon what's going on with them, are going to control the solenoids of these two relays. The relay that is closest to the center of the board, which is right here, is going to change state in accordance with the first set of contacts and whether or not there's something missing from there. But more importantly, whenever there is a call in progress, so somebody requires assistance and they go up and they hit their call button in order to initiate a call, as soon as the system recognizes that that call box is active, it's going to change state on this particular relay. The outboard relay is going to change state, again, with a missing input, but again, it's going to change state if there is a system fault that's detected. A system fault is my phone line dropped out, my wiring broke between two devices, whether it's between the call commander and the BOSS head end or between two of the call boxes that are out there. As soon as the system knows that it should be seeing a particular number of devices but does not detect that same number, it is going to go into a system fault, and that's going to change the state of this particular relay. So again, attach either the normally open or normally closed contacts on your relays to your fire alarm control panel for exterior notification of either an active call or a system or voltage fault. In case you hadn't figured it out, Wrath is part of a VIRE. A VIRE is a group of companies that a global organization, including Memco, MicroKey, which are predominantly our European allies, and then here in the States, Wrath and Janus. Wrath is life safety and elevator. Janus is predominantly elevator products. And of course, we are going over the SmartCommand system installation, as mentioned. The main objectives of this course. Okay, this is for installers, so that you guys know how to, but it is also for those people that are putting the systems together to be able to know how to properly interconnect the equipment. So when we get done with this, you're going to be able to properly install and troubleshoot the Wrath by a VIRE SmartCommand system. We're going to identify the equipment, wiring, and programming requirements to ensure successful implementation of the SmartCommand, and that is including but not limited to. And then going to cover the equipment, tools, wiring, system programming. That's a big one that'll be coming up. We're going to do that live on the system here. The alarm connections and some basic troubleshooting. We do have a quick question on the station ports on the BOSS. Can we split a full 32 station system with 16 on one and 16 on two of trying to go vertical at opposite ends of the building? Okay. Yes, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Okay, please keep the questions coming, by the way, that was something that somebody had sent in regarding the system topology. When it comes to tools, especially if you guys are out in the field and you are calling into tech support, make sure that you have a multimeter and an analog telephone or a telephone test set. Okay? You'd be surprised at the number of people that are installing a system that is supposed to call someplace that don't carry a means or methodology for testing the phone line. Have your favorite wire cutter, wire stripper. You must have a laptop with a USB port in order to accomplish the programming of the system. Have the Wrath by a Virus SmartCommand programming software and the cable that we provide. When you receive your shipment, there's going to be a USB drive that has copies of both the SmartCommand 128 and SmartCommand 32 manual, as well as the current revision of the programming software. And for those that the system does not auto recognize on your devices when you plug the cable into the USB port on your laptop, I also included the FTDI drivers that are necessary on those laptops that don't already have them for the BOSS to auto recognize the COM port. Now, I'm also an old phone guy, so I use a tone generator and an inductive amplifier because if we get into a situation where we're not sure if our wires are going through, then that's the easiest way of figuring that part out. System topology, and this was why I did not directly answer that question before. But what we're doing is we'll start at the bottom and we can see our fire control panel that is interconnected with the addressable fire alarm module. The BOSS is going to have the connections that are going from the relay module that are feeding into that so that you get the external notifications. Now, in addition to those connections that are feeding out for the external notifications, we have incoming to the BOSS, the external phone line. So that pathway that you're going to use to contact people that are not on the site. The external line is not required if you are having it call a call commander that is going directly to a 24/7 manned on-site security desk. But if we do have to go through and have it call off-site, you have to have a phone line. Now we have our call commander that is connected to the BOSS head end on the proper connector, which we saw in the video. And then we have our call boxes. Call boxes are daisy chain. And the question that came in to go through and refresh everybody was, if we have a 32 zone system, can we split it across the two connectors that are on there so that we can do 16 and 16? Again, the answer is yes, but the further answer is you can do 32 on one and 0 on the other. You can do 31 on one and 1 on the other, or any combination there. And I'm not going to spend all the time. The max wire length of a zone. Okay. Funny you should ask that question. Because here are distance and size parameters. Pay the man, he set me up. 32 callbox system. Okay. You go 650 feet from the BOSS head end to the first call box. And then you can do a maximum of 650 feet between call boxes. Okay. The total loop length is 2,000 feet. So we can see that if we're going to put call boxes at the maximum length, that we can only put 3 on a given loop if we have a 32 zone system. But that's just to demonstrate what we can do. Typical topology is going to be run to the first call box and then have stacked conduits that are going to be 15 to 20 feet that are on there. The 128 system is a little bit beefier. And we can go 900 feet between call boxes, and again, that's 900 feet to the first call commander. The distances that are being put out here are using 18 gauge cable. And if you're using CI cable and you're getting into the 16 gauge, they are consistent with this. So again, 32 call boxes on a single loop connector on the 128 system and 128 total. Couple more questions that popped in. Per code on fire alarm, the outbound call must go to a UL certified call center. Does this call out not have to utilize a UL certified call center? Okay. And Mark, just to go through and answer your question in a very roundabout way, that is dictated by the authority having jurisdiction in the area in which the system is being installed. So if you're putting this thing in a spot where the AHJ says you have to go to a UL certified call center, then that's what must be done. Okay. Can we use a VoIP phone line? The answer to that is yes, but I will qualify that because it needs to be a voice over IP connection that is presented as an analog phone line. Okay? And for those that understand just a little bit about telephones, an analog phone line presentation would be at 48 to 52 volts DC at between 18 and 25 milliamps of loop current and have North American dial tone when you go off hook. So if your phone line provision that you're putting into the system meets those parameters, we don't care if it's cellular, VoIP, or anything else. Hey, we already covered the CI cable distance. Thank you, Jason, for asking that. Does the outside connection have to be a landline? No, we can use cellular. Okay. In fact, you can contact your RATH sales professional in order to see our full line of cellular devices that can meet the needs for the installation of your system. Any other questions regarding the distance, size, topology? Okay. We are not done yet because now we're going to do live programming of the system. This is a setup system that is ready to go. I got the camera on first because we want to see what goes on with that particular system when we fire it up. Now, before we fire it up, all of our wires have been pulled. All of them have been terminated in their proper order following the color code. I don't know if you heard that through the video, but that is like number one. The biggest problem that people have is the wiring. And it really isn't that difficult. We just need to do the repetitive motion of ensuring that it's the same all the way through. Once we have our call commander plugged in, we have all of our call boxes connected and wired out. And we have the phone line connected. We're ready to power our system on. Question came in, did we cover the distance for the master station from the boss head end? Excellent question. I don't believe I did on that slide. We're going to have to make sure that we include that. 2,000 foot total loop length. So you can go a couple thousand feet away from the boss head end to that call commander. Very important, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because if our lengths are dictated in such a fashion that we're better served by having multiple loop connections, we can take and put the boss head end on a multi-story building on like the 15th, 20th floor and feed both up and down on loops in order to accommodate the installation. If the call commander, so the main answering station, is going to need to go in the fire command room that is typically on the first floor, and that would make that run longer. So, and I just got an update on that. The specific distance that that we're putting in there is 900 feet between the boss head end and the call commander. I have a VoIP battery backup requirement. Okay, first, a couple questions. First one that came in, do we have any pictures of clean installs of the boss and the UPS inverter charger configuration? Yes, we do. Okay. They are included in the manual. So if you want an actual picture of a site that has them installed, we have those also. We'll do a separate follow-up for that. The system can be used without a fire system. Okay, that was more representative of a typical installation, more so than a requirement. The boss can just be a standalone, pretty much on-site intercom system for emergencies if you have it going to security and have the call boxes spread throughout the facility. Can we have more than one call commander? No. That is going to be something that's going to be made available in the immediate future. For right now, we only have the capability of a single call commander. So, excellent questions. So, keep asking while we do it, but now let's fire up our boss and go through and see exactly what happens during startup. Okay. System, when you first start it up, goes out and it sends, you remember that red button, okay? I had mentioned it during the video. When we first fire our system up, the boss is going to go through and do an automatic recognition and detection of all devices that are connected to it. So if we see on the scrolling screen right now, it says system error, system config call box, so that's CB, and it's going to have another system error associated with the external line. The reason why we're having that is we haven't told the system what it has yet. So when we see this next CB3, CC1, EL1, okay, that means that the system detected 3 call boxes. It also saw 1 call commander, that's CC, and the EL is the external line. So it detects 1 external line upon fire up. So that being the case, we already know what is there before we start programming. And as such, those numbers should match the number of devices that you have installed with your system. So if you go through and install 25 call boxes and you fire it up and it says that you have 17 on there, and start troubleshooting, because the system won't throw an error until it's programmed. If the call commander is operative, will the fault/troubles show on it? No. You need to, you'll recognize that there's a fault because there'll be a red X on the face of the call commander. But you're going to have to go to the actual main head end to do it. Is this webinar going to be available after so my other coworkers can see? Yes, you're going to be receiving a copy of this webinar along with the installation manuals for both of the systems, the 128 and the 32, as well as the programming software and the drivers for the FTDI, so that if your boss is not auto-recognized by your laptop, then you can get that taken care of. We have a high rise with 68 call boxes. How long does the auto-recognize take? When you initially fire it up, the auto recognition will take somewhere in the 15 to 20 seconds. But the system will not level out until after it's done with that recognition. So you'll know. Obviously, the more call boxes, the little bit longer it takes. Can we program the call stations prior to field installation? Okay, Again, excellent question. No. That the system has to recognize the call boxes before you can actually go through and start programming. So, and that's a qualified no, because if you wanted to go through and set up the system in your office and go through and program it in its entirety and then tear it down, move it to the job site, and then wire it up, ensuring that you have the call boxes connected in the exact same order that you did when you had it set up. Okay? So you can see what a pain in the rear end that would be to go through and actually do that. However, small system, you might want to. So with that, let's take a look at our actual programming. I'm going to share my screen. So log in. We have a limited imagination here, so the login is username admin, all lowercase. And the password, for those of you that are playing along at home, you got it. Password. Ta-da! When we do that, we click in, and please, on the bottom, you can see version 1.0.11.0. Okay, use that version. We click load, and it comes up with our quick start. Okay, the quick start is the way that we go through and recognize our system from our laptop and start our programming. Click begin to begin. So begin. And it tells us connect the USB port on the BOSS and then click connect. This is where if you have the proper drivers that are loaded on your laptop, the BOSS is going to be automatically recognized by the programming software. If you do not, you send a copy of it along, load it, or ask your IT department to get the drivers put on your programming laptop. And we connect. And it's going through and checking all of the COM ports. Will there be a future option to power the system from 24 volts DC with 4-hour battery backup when we have an auto start generator? Okay, good question. As far as going through and having future options on that, we are always paying attention to the needs of the customers. And as such, we want to go through and ensure that you have what you need out in the field. So any request for things like that, send in, we'll get it to our product manager and our engineering team, and they can go through and assist with getting or having some of those items come to fruition. There we go. Okay, everybody can see that. Oh, that is very interesting. Actually, it's by design. When we first went in and logged in, we could see that the system went through its detection and pretty much said the same thing that was on the front panel display. It said, hey, I have seen now the callbox firmware does not match. Okay. So I'll show you how to fix that too. Number of call boxes, 3. Number of call commanders, 1. Number of phone lines, 1. Okay. Next, we are going to go to our configuration page. Okay. On our configuration page, this is where we are going to put in the number of devices that we have. Please note the help boxes that are on here. Okay. These buttons allow you to change between general information, etc. Okay. That means that you can select the things that you need. And then there is help under each of the individual areas. So I'm going to start off with our system information. Edit device. Okay. Call boxes. Everybody remembers, oh yeah, we had 3 call boxes. I hit the tab. I have 1 call commander, and I tab, and I have 1 external phone line on there. Now, when I click finish edit, it's going to tell me, hey, you got 3 1 and 1. Yes. Now, if you didn't silence the alarm and you love hearing that tone come through, at this point, the alarm would have shut off because we went through and corrected the deficiency on the system. So we can see on there now, it's not flashing. It's not going through and saying system error. We have none of that going on because we went through and told our boss how many of what we have. So we're in good shape. If it cannot identify the COM port, but we know which one it is, can it be manually entered? Okay, excellent question. Yes, you can, but okay, if it doesn't automatically identify the COM port, you may not have the proper drivers to be able to interact with the system. So if you know which one it is, and okay, all of us have done it, go to your device manager, unplug the USB, see which one goes away, and then plug it back in. But again, when we see things like that happen, we may not have the drivers available. So excellent question. Okay, I mentioned the system is not capable of a secondary master station. And there's a fixed comment. When will the system be updated to utilize the secondary master station? Hold on while I consult my crystal engineering ball. Actually, I wish that I could give you a definitive answer on that. It is in the works. We anticipate somewhere within the next 6 months being able to expand the capability to accommodate a second call commander. So no promises, by the way. Okay, so we're good there. Now, while we're trained on the system, okay, I'm going to go through and unplug the handset from the call commander. We hear the alarm go off and we see that there's a microphone fault. Okay, mic fault is cleared very simply by plugging the microphone back in. Okay, and it cleared and the system is happy. So that is a minor fault, but it is still a system fault. Okay, that minor fault is going to clear on its own. Now we're going to do something completely different because say we are running our wire and we're working with other trades during the construction process. We've all done it and we've all had different stuff happen, but somebody else goes in and manages to damage my wiring in some fashion. And as such, now where I used to have a whole bunch of call boxes that were on there, I no longer have them. My system is going out and polling and trying to see how many call boxes it has. And while it does that, it is going to come back and give us a system error. It takes about a minute for it to go through and do its recognition. When it has that system error that pops up, it is going to show you where the break in the wire is. So I'm going to, again, mute that. We can see on here where it says system error, and it has the loop, okay, L2A. So loop 2, and there is a break between call box 1 and call box 2. So if we have a problem with our call boxes, we're going to know, based upon the information on the LCD display, where to go and troubleshoot it. Okay, so I go between call box 1 and call box 2, and that's why I unplugged the cable from the unit. Check both ends, and once you figure out which is causing difficulty, plug it back in. Once it's reconnected, the call boxes are going to be available as soon as they power back on and talk back to the head end. Okay. Now, we still see that error on there. Wiring errors are just slightly different. Okay. And the way that they're different is that the nature of them automatically dictates that we go and investigate. So we went and investigated, we found the problem, we fixed it. Now the boss head end needs to verify that that's been taken care of. The way that we verify it is by restarting the investigation process. So we power it down, bring it back up, and the system is going to go through and rediscover all the devices, the pathways, everything else that it needs for this particular system. And when it comes back up, we will see that the error has cleared and that we have 3 call boxes, 1 call commander, and 1 external line attached to the system. Next, we are going to get into our programming. So once again, remember, we just fixed a major error in wiring. We had the system go through the discovery process, and now we go through and reconnect. Callbox firmware does not match. Please contact the buyer to inquire about updating callbox firmwares. Okay, this specifically means that some of the call boxes were sitting on a shelf for a little bit, and it has older firmware on it. Contact Avire tech support. They will work with you to transfer a file. There is a way of doing it as an OTA, over the air update. You don't have to tear the call boxes apart. You don't have to do anything except have your laptop connected and have the proper file. Follow the bouncing ball. Okay, we are on the configuration, and if anybody here is old enough to remember Mitch Miller, because even I am not, I just know the reference, then it's time to relax. So we go down general information. Okay, system information we already put in. The address, okay, the address for the system. Address line 1 at 1265 Lombardi Avenue. For those that don't recognize it, that's in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It has a big G on the outside of the building. When you're typing the city and state, okay, type it phonetically. Okay? For those that live in the Pacific Northwest, or even some of the areas in Wisconsin where the names might sound different on the text-to-speech engine, have it type it in phonetically. Nobody's going to see what's typed in here. State, type out the complete state, no abbreviations. And then telephone information. This is where we are going to click Edit Device, and then type in the telephone number that we want the system to call. So let's get out of that, and we can see when we cursor over it, it tells us exactly what's going on with it. A maximum number of digits allowed in a telephone number, because we're in North America, is 12. Important steps down here, ring time. Where do we want it to ring and for how long? So ring time is at the call commander before it transfers off site. If we put a 0 in there, the call is never transferring off site. So use that particular parameter if you are having calls go to a call commander at a security desk. Ring time of 1 means that the call is not ringing at the call commander at all, and it's transferring directly off site. Use that parameter if the call commander is not being manned or is in a room that is off by itself. And of course, if the AHJ or the building owner or anybody else that is in a position to make the decision wants it to ring for a certain amount of time at the call commander, then you put in anywhere from 2 to 99 seconds, which is how long that call is going to ring at the call commander before it transfers out to that number that we programmed in number slot 1. If the call goes out to number slot 1 and it's busy, cannot be completed as dialed, any of the weird stuff that goes on, we can put a secondary number in there. So number 2. At that point, if 1 is unsuccessful, it will go to 2. I have a question. As an independent system designer, many of my clients have switched to a call commander for a small system of 1 to 10. is there a cleaner way to use an Altronics or LSP 24-volt power supply / charger with an inverter? What current / wattage for the 3400 boss? Okay, excellent question. Maximum current draw on the boss, we recommend putting it, plugging into a 10 amp outlet. So that's where we would maintain that posture. And then as far as the actual draw on the system, that's going to vary with the number of call boxes and the system size. So you're saying a 1 to 10. We will go through and provide you with that information separately. We'll do a follow-up and give you some of the details concerning the current draw of the system. Excellent question. Okay, let's continue on. Phone lines connected. Oh, finish editing. See, I was going through to the next one. We can see down here at the bottom, it says finish editing before moving to another page. So finish edit. Now I'm going to phone lines connected. Okay, phone lines 1. There is a future option on the system where we are planning on allowing for a couple of telephone lines that have built-in backup. System fault configuration. Okay, we covered that relay board during the video that has the system fault notification and the callbox activation notification automatically. Well, this is where we control our relays themselves. So we come over here and we say supply fault input. Okay, that is the input that is closest to the center of the board. Active high, active low, or disabled. Okay, by default, they're disabled. Active high means that relay is going to be active when a high potential is seen on that input. Okay. Active low means that if you have voltage that's being applied to it and it goes away, then the relay is going to activate when it goes low. The active low is going to be the more common application. Most people take a sampling of whatever either AC or DC voltage, push it directly into the input of those relays. And if it goes away, then it gives us an alarm. System fault input, same thing. This is the relay that is closer to the outer edge of the board, and same thing. Now, even though they're labeled supply fault and system fault, you can put whatever in there that you like. And just make sure that that when you run them to whatever external notification device, that they are annotated as such. If you call into Wrath Tech Support and say, hey, I'm having an issue with my system, they are going to ask you for some questions, or for some information on the system. Okay, that is over here in the general information. And we want the firmware revisions for the compute board, the phone line interface, the loop 1 interface, and the loop 2 interface. Okay. If you have a 128, obviously there will be a loop interface number 3. Read those numbers off to your tech support professional. They will be able to provide you with proper guidance. Let's get into our call boxes real quick. We can see on this particular call box, the first one that is in there is called 5th floor AOR. So that's the way that it's going to show up on the screen on the call commander. Okay. It is typed out with the word floor because the text to voice is very literal. It will recognize the combination of the 5 and TH as 5th. But when it comes to floor, if you abbreviate it FLR, it will say FLR. So keep that in mind, but we're going to show you how to generate outbound messages to accommodate that. We take a look over here. We see the serial number of the call box, but it's not set. So we're going to edit device, and we'll call this one 6th floor and finish edit. And then we'll come over here and we will edit device and we will call this the 7th floor. Finish edit. So now that those are done, these are set as far as the names. Call commander is flashing. We want to take a look at that and see what's going on. Again, with the call boxes, when we select them, we can see the version of firmware that is on those. Okay, and likewise, remember when we fired it up and it said firmware mismatch? Okay, we could see where we have 1.0.2 on a couple of them and 167 on there. Do all the stations have the serial numbers on the back of them so the contractor installing them can make a points list? We're working on that. Right now, no. Okay. The only place that the serial number is actually located is when you go into the programming, and we can see the serial number of the call box is right there. What is the max number of characters? 16. Excellent question. Most of the time, the contractor installs all of these and just tells me to program them. Cool. The only thing that you need from the contractor is to have them tell you which call box is first in the connection to a given loop. So if it cannot identify the COM port, but we know which one. Oh, we already answered that one. Thanks. I think we're all caught up on questions. Call commander, we only have one, so that's set. Next, we are going to go to one of the cooler features on our system, which is our outbound message. Now, remember how we're limited to 16 characters. Okay? So if we go through and do 16 characters and we're typing, type out 7th floor elevator landing. Okay. So we're actually, we'll come down here and we'll use the 5th floor as an example. And I hope the audio plays. Did you hear that? Okay. Okay, it's saying 5th floor hour AOR when I click the click to test button. Well, that's not what we want to hear. We want to hear the 5th floor area of refuge. Okay, now I type it in the update audio part, then click test. When I click test, it's going to play back that phonetic version of that message. Oh, how long can that message be? 14 seconds. Actually, how long can do you mean how long can the naming convention be as far as the number of characters? Okay, because you can go up to 32 characters on that one. The message unto itself is dictated by the length of the verbiage that is utilized. So the system will automatically read the address and the name of the call box and everything else, and then use that to generate the outbound message. Now, because I went through and typed that and clicked test, and I actually said 5th floor area of refuge, then I click on generate new. Hey, it's saying what I want it to. So I click on that. Now 5th floor AOR is still shown over there, but 5th floor area of refuge is shown here. When you initially set the system up, go through and change all of your names on your system, and then you're going to upload the phonetic file. So we do that by clicking on the individual boxes that we want to upload, and then click the upload button down here. Okay. So that's how we go through and get our outbound message loaded into the system. Keep in mind that even if the possible emergency for two-way communication, the address, all of that is correct. Okay, that still needs to be uploaded. So again, system size is going to dictate the amount of time that it takes to upload the files. It does take a little bit, maybe on a larger system, 15 to 20 minutes. Is there eventually going to be a self-restoring wire break failure to avoid powering down each time? We are working on the fact that if the system goes back to the state that it was in prior to going into fault, and it does comparison of that, then it will auto clear that. So yes, we are working on that. The wire length in between call boxes is updated from 250 to 650. Yes. Okay. We just had a question, and thank you for being a customer of ours and knowing that the parameters had changed. We were going through and doing a number of different audio enhancements on the system that allow for greater distances. So this is kind of part of a relaunch of our SmartCommand system, and also making sure that all you guys know that it is a certified UL 2525 system. As such, we do have the new distance parameters. Those are the 900 feet to the call commander, 650 feet out to each call box, and in between call boxes for the 32 zone, and 900 feet to the first call box, and in between call boxes on the 128 system. Total loop length on the 32 zone, 2,000 feet. Total loop length on the 128 zone at 4,750. So we have this done. We just went through and did an upload, and all of our messages are uploaded. Then we're done. Almost. Keep in mind that we had a firmware mismatch that was on this that said contact Wrath Tech Support. When you do that, we need to go into the firmware updates section. When we click on the firmware updates section, it is going to ask us for a passcode. Okay. Again, our imagination knows no bounds. So 8055 kind of looks like the word boss when you type it. That's the passcode for the firmware updates. We go through and click enable, and we can right here where it's going to say choose the firmware or format and upload new firmware. Okay. Because we have the firmware that we want on here, we don't have to upload new firmware. So, but if you were to call in and had a firmware mismatch and didn't have the firmware already loaded into the BOSS that you needed, then we would be able to email you an SREC file that you're going to load into the system, because when you click upload new firmware, it's going to say select file, and then you select the file. It will go to the area that you're looking for, the proper SREC files on the system. And then you select that. When you select that file, then you're going to upload new firmware. It's going to pull it out of that and push it to the BOSS. And then once it's on there, we are going to update all call boxes. Now we can see where it says working on firmware update for call box 5th floor AOR, and it gives us our percentage. That will go through and click along until it is done uploading and updating. We can see where that is up to 52%. And while we're doing that, I've got a couple more questions. Did I miss a step on how you're associating the text to speech to a specific station? No, you didn't miss it, Dave, because it's automatically done. Okay? The way that we name the call boxes is the name that shows up on the left side of that outbound message page. Okay, so I named this 6th floor. So that's associated with the call box that I called 6th floor. So when I go into configuration, we can see right here that call box is the one that we were updating that particular file for. So it's all done for you. Hopefully that answered your question. Any other questions while we're finishing our firmware updates? We can see where we are now on to updating our 6th floor, And seventh floor was already done. That was the one that was on the proper revision of firmware. So this will be done in just another second. I just heard the call box click over, which means that it has recognized that. So normally you're not going to hear that because you're not in the same area as the call box. Once it finishes over here on where it says currently 80%, now we're up to 90, it'll make that final jump. Then we navigate away from it. There we go. All call boxes have been updated. So going to our configuration and restart. We'll go back to our quick start and reconnect. When we reconnect, it's going to reread all the information that's on there. And note that it no longer has that firmware mismatch error that we had. So call box location should match the text to speech. Call box location, as you name it, will match the text to speech because that's how the TTS, that's the information that the TTS uses in order to generate the automated message. The only time that we generate a new message is if our naming convention is off from what we needed. So either a phonetic change or we were abbreviating our call box names and we wanted it to be spelled out a little bit better to the people that are answering the call. Can we adjust the volume on the call boxes in the field? I had an AHJ test the system with another vendor and he said it was quiet during the call. Okay. We do not currently have the capability of adjusting the volume out in the field. Our system is certified UL 2525. It does meet the requirements for this particular system from a volume standpoint. And let's get back in here real quick. We can see 3, 1, and 1. I've got my call boxes that are all here. They are all up to the proper firmware revision. And my call commander is on the proper rev. Now, one other thing I want to point out while we're in here. You see our little settings dial down at the bottom. If you need to change your COM port on your laptop to accommodate whatever, this is where you would do it. Okay? But you can't do it until you're logged into the system. So makes it a bit of a challenge. You can always close the port and rescan if you'd like. The time, okay, once you're logged into your system, make sure that your laptop is on the proper time and then click on sync time. It's going to synchronize the time that's on the display with the time that's on your laptop. Log file. Okay, if we want to go through and download the log file, we can do exactly that. The log file location is going to be right here. It's going to show you your faults, activations, all the different stuff that goes on within the system. If for whatever reason you were terribly confused when you went through and did this and need to start over, you can do the factory reset right here. And remember, password settings, we click here to change the password. And when we click on change password, it is going to allow us to get away from the admin and password. However, okay, if you forget your password, then we're going to have to get back into the system, wipe your programming, and start over. So it's one of those where who's going to do anything to the system, all right? I haven't seen anyone change it as of yet. Can the volume levels be adjusted from the programming software, or are they fixed? They are fixed. Okay. If the AHJ does have an issue with the volume level in some fashion, that's where presenting a sound meter works. But right now there is no special way of doing it. Time sync is a one-time setting. Is there an NTP to allow sync time to avoid drift? The system isn't connected to anything unless you have your laptop physically connected to it. So no, there is no setting to go to an NTP server and automatically have the time updated. But good question. Final item that I want to point out is if you go to your call boxes, and I'm getting ready to do a system reset, which is going to wipe all my information, or there's a problem with your board. Okay, Bill was drinking coffee in by the head end, and the boss system is being used as his coffee table. Oops, pop, click, funny smell, and we're gone. Okay, well, before we get to that point, go over here to the import and export. When you have your system fully programmed, choose the file to import. Nope, we want to export the file first. Okay, choose the file to export to. This is where we put in our pathway, and then we click export by clicking on export. It's going to take all of our callbox names and put them into an Excel spreadsheet. Save that thing, have it on a thumb drive that's located at the site. And if you have that there and there is some type of catastrophic failure or an update required, then you can go through and just reload that instead of retyping everything. Does it have auto daylight savings? No, it does not, because we do not have a convention in there for selecting which state you're located in. So that is an adjustment that needs to be made at the time of the daylight savings time change. But that is something that we do have in the works for a DST button. If we use all caps for the station location, will that cause issues with the TTS? No, the TTS doesn't care caps, lowercase, anything like that. But it doesn't like special characters. So no dashes, slashes, commas, hashtags, asterisks, none of the above. Okay, so we saw how to export our callbox names to a file. That way, if we do have to re-upload the system, wipe it, do anything in that fashion, then we can do it. And thank you all for taking part of your day to learn about the Wrath SmartCommand system. Hopefully this was beneficial to you. And please reach out if you do have questions concerning system configuration, parameters, anything else. We will happily provide you with all information that's available. So thank you all and have a great rest of your day.